August 1st, 2012, Wednesday. At 0800, the students were all assigned numbers by Coach Hansen in the dining room. One by one, they were ushered into the conference rooms in the hotel. Jack and Midas were 1 and 2. As soon as Midas was called, he understood why they were inside to start their day. He was given an eye exam, with very high-tech equipment. When he walked out of the room and into the next, another student was right behind him. After all his 5 senses were thoroughly tested, he was sent to the pit. He was told to run there. Once close to the pit, Coach Inferno headed him off and told him to wait behind the stands. From there, he could not see the pit itself, but he could hear it. He heard what must be Jack running and jumping. Lucy walked up to him with a biomonitor harness. Included in this one were 2 patches that stuck to the back of his neck. Sorry, there are some tests we can't tell you about. That's fine. Sometimes it just wouldn't be a test unless it was a surprise, Midas said. I have Midas up next. I'm ready in here, Bobby said into Lucy's earpiece. Midas could hear what Bobby said in her ear. So I'm up, Midas said. Nobody likes a smart aleck. Go straight to the pit entrance and do what Coach Spurs tells you to do. Midas ran to the pit front and saw Coach Spurs. Midas ran directly to the big man and stopped. In front of him, he saw an obstacle course that looked like it was off a Japanese TV. Only this one filled the entire pit. Jack was already bounding along the course. There are no tricks or shortcuts. Follow the red arrows to the end. No powers except for your speed. Your time counts. Go! Coach Spurs ordered quick and loud. Midas found himself walking around narrow balance beams, climbing ropes, and hanging from his fingertips. He even came across an obstacle of poles that were sticking straight up out of the ground and had to walk on the small end sticking up. This course took him almost 20 minutes to complete. Lucy was stripping the biomonitors off Midas when he asked, Do I go to the dugout next or more testing? No, you're done for the day, unless you want to compete in the challenges, Lucy said. No, I'm good. I'll be in the dugout. Inside the dugout, Jack looked at him. It was an agility test. The biomonitors checked how fast your reflexes adapt and how good your balance is. I hate surprise tests. Bobby looked at her with a cocked head. You can't know about the test or it wouldn't be a good test of your adaptive reflexes. And you can't know the layout of the course or that will throw the test results off. That's fine. What was my score? Midas said. A top end near miss 5, like your other scores, Bobby said. Top end 5, nah, Jack said with a weird face. Don't mind her, she got a 3, Bobby said. The dugout team watched every student one after another come to the pit and try the course. Midas noted most agility ratings were 10 or below, with a few that hit 20 and 3 beyond that. Glimmer, the French girl, was able to score a 40. She and Monk were both able to get the high score of 50. Armory and Knight both walked away with a score of 1. Once the last person was tested, Bobby and Lucy told Midas and Jack to go outside with the other students. Coach Spurs called the children all together to address them. As some of you may have found out by now, we are having hitter, stealth, and anchor challenges this afternoon. Your participation and attendance are not mandatory. After dinner, at 1900, we will begin secrets training in Hotel Conference Room C. All Track 2 students must attend. The rest of the afternoon is yours. If you wish to participate or be a spectator of the challenges, be back here in 2 hours, Coach Spurs said. He turned and walked back into the pit. Students slowly broke up and started heading to the hotel. Virtuoso found Midas in the crowd. Do you trust me? Virtuoso asked Midas. Sure. She reached out her hand and touched his shoulder. Both of them then teleported to the dining area of the hotel. Midas winced a bit when he realized what just happened. Did you just take all my molecules apart like in Star Trek? No, silly. Think of it as 2 points in space suddenly sharing the same space and we hop from one to the other, Virtuoso said calmly to Midas. Sounds complicated. It took me forever to get it right from a moving vehicle to the sidewalk, then a plane to the ground, and once you get that, you take bigger trips. You have to remember, if you go from one side of the world to the other, you're actually moving in 2 opposite directions. They sat down at the table to order while Midas thought about that. Wasn't that dangerous to even try to learn? Not really. I have a theory that most powers come with safeguards. I can't teleport inside of an object, and I could only teleport a few feet when I was really young. So the first time I teleported when I was walking, I started to understand how to control my momentum along with the orientation of how I appeared. It was really cool. So you make all of those decisions each time you use it? Midas said. No, it's like learning to ride a bike. You can make certain breakthroughs and you don't have to think about it anymore. My biggest one was when I was 9. I would walk in one direction, then teleport to the same place I was, facing the other way, and all my momentum reversed. I called it my turnaround teleport. Sounds neat. It got neater. I learned to do it when running or riding my bike fast at a brick wall, then reversing everything. I even used it when I fell out of a tree to teleport myself back to the same place with no downward momentum. It's a cool power, Virtuoso said. Midas and Virtuoso then ordered and enjoyed lunch. Then all the students, without exception, made their way back to the pit. Once there, they could see the obstacle course was gone. Only the empty pit remained. Coach Spurs told everyone to take a seat. The coach stood in front of the stands and counted the children as they sat down. Midas and Jack made their way to the dugout. "This is really the best seat in the house," Lucy said. "All of them." "That's always a good sign," thought the coach. "Those of you who have been designated as stealths, and those of you who have been designated as hitters, step forward if you want to participate in the challenge matches. Or, if you think you can fight as an anchor, step forward. The rest of you feel free to talk. You're not on my time," Coach Spurs roared. Several young people made their way to the front and stood by the coach. "Part of this is a courage test. Who's not afraid to step up?" Virtuoso thought to Midas. "No offense, but running these computers takes concentration. I'll have to let you go." Midas snickered to himself at how that was like ending a phone call. "All students who want to participate must put on red harnesses. Go to the dugout and see Bobby," Coach Spurs said. Bobby, Jack, and 3 other techs helped put the red harnesses on the students. Lucy and Midas were in the dugout making sure the harnesses transmitted their data back correctly. "How does this machine work? I mean, how does it send data back in time, even a fraction of a second?" Midas asked Lucy. "I asked those same questions. I was told I would never get the answer." Lucy stopped and looked right at Midas. "One day you'll be a brain on an alpha team. Maybe you'll tell me. I don't know if I'll be a brain. IQ and the others are really smart. The way you learn these stations, I think you could learn anything." Midas said nothing and felt guilty. He wanted to tell her how he really memorized all that information, but he thought it might get Virtuoso in trouble. She may have her faults, but she was his friend. After 15 minutes of safety checks and rechecks, everyone returned to Coach Spurs at the pit. Coach Hansen was there also. The students in the stands who were making a great deal of noise quieted to hear what was said by the coach. "We'll start with stealth single elimination by one-on-one combat. Do not purposely attack the red harness. Use whatever power you have. If nothing happens for 15 minutes, I'll change the rules. Do not leave the pit," Coach Spurs said. He looked at his clipboard and continued. "First up is She versus Hollow. Each of you to one side of the pit until you hear the air horn. Other stealths stay on deck." She took a fast step and then floated in the air at the same speed. She dropped her height over the pit and rotated all at the same time to stop at the far end of the pit facing her opponent. To spectators, she looked like some kind of superhero Christmas ornament turning in the air. Bioforce watched her new best friend from the stands, hoping she wouldn't get hurt. Hollow flew matter-of-fact style to her spot and landed, waiting for the coach. Everyone stopped making any sounds, waiting for the coach to start the match. Coach Spurs looked to Coach Hansen, then raised an air horn and blew it. "What are we supposed to do now?" Midas asked Lucy. "I keep looking for errors on the equipment. Otherwise, we enjoy the show." On the horn, both girls turned invisible. Darkness was projected from Hollow's side of the pit to the other. Nobody in the stands could see anything on that half of the pit. Midas watched on his monitor the placements of the red harnesses on the invisible girls. After turning invisible, Hollow had flown 40 feet above the pit and projected darkness at where she thought She was. Once She turned invisible, She moved super fast to the wall and ran sideways on the wall. Like gravity didn't apply to her. "Look, She isn't really touching the wall," Lucy said with excitement watching the monitors. She crossed 75% of the way from her inside to Hollow's end and stopped, looking out at where Hollow should be. Hollow, on the other hand, was looking into the darkness for any sign of movement. She then projected flames forward into the center of the darkness. She stretched out her hand toward Hollow. Hollow was violently pulled toward She, then repelled even harsher. Hollow tried to transform into darkness, but the attack was too fast. Hollow had accelerated to near the speed of sound by the time she reached the side of the pit. Flames were snuffed out against the rock wall as Hollow appeared in the red bench room. Midas jumped and said, "What did she just do?" "She can attract and repel objects. That's how she floats on the ground, sticks to walls and other stuff," Lucy said as she was pulling up She's file. "What other stuff?" said Midas as he rushed to her side to look.